Hello all. In this video we're going to take a look at how to get started with OpenCV. We'll also look at a few things that NumPy can provide for us, but just basic things about reading in images from a file and then displaying those images, but also looking at what they look like underneath just a little bit. We'll also see how NumPy can make our own blank images as starting points. So I'm going to switch over to my desktop view. We'll look at the whole desktop. I have a few notes here, and then I'm going to mostly go and do some demo. So starting with OpenCV, if you want to make sure that you're installed correctly, this first box here is a good way to check that. It doesn't do anything interesting, but it will print a number, which is the version of OpenCV that is installed. What we're going to do here is to take a look at this example. I'm not going to go through everything in the text, but what I'll note is there's a little copy button here. This is really helpful. I can copy and I can paste over here the exact code. I have some key ideas. These are the things that I kind of want to go through and touch on and emphasize in this video. So I think you can see them all, even with me in the corner. I can move it down just a little, make sure. First point, paths and file names are strings. So we are going to read images from files. They could be JPEG files, they could be PNG. There are a number of other image formats that OpenCV can read fairly well. Over here in the left in our project space, I'll note that we have a sample images folder, and this has the images that we're mostly going to be using for our practice. So if you look in sample images, there are lots of these. If you click on one, you can actually see it here inside OpenCV or inside PyCharm. But notice that my code file, the code file is called cvbeginner.py. If I move my mouse up here and I hover, it actually is going to show me the folder that my code file is in. And you can see that that folder is comp194-code. That's the parent folder up here. So if I scroll way down, there's my file, cvbeginner.py. Why am I emphasizing this? Because when I run this program, it's going to assume I'm in the folder, I'm running it in the folder where this code file sits. And when you want to specify the location of another file on the computer, you either have to give the whole path to the file, or you can give it relative to this code file's position. So we're going to have a whole separate conversation about paths at some point or another, but for right now, I just want you to think about it this way. A path describes how to find a file. And it either starts at the top level, like the C drive if you're on Windows, or the /users if you're on a Mac, and it specifies all the way from there how to find the file, or it is a path from where you are right now to where the file is. And where you are right now refers to the location where the code file is stored when we're writing a program that has a path. A file name as well. That's just a path with an actual file name attached to it. In Python, when we work with these, we specify them as strings, and you'll see that in the program. One thing you should know is if I want to load this Chicago image in, if I know the path, I can just type it. But also, if you right-click in PyCharm, there is copy path reference, and you can say path from content root, which shows sample images.chicago. This will copy to the clipboard the location, and then I could come here into my own code and I can paste it. So that's one way to make sure you get the path correct. Otherwise, you can just type it. And I've done that right down here in the code. I have written a reference to chicago.jpg relative to where this code file is. They're inside the same folder as my code file. cvbeginner is a folder called sample images. So I start with sample images, and then the slash says, and inside that, and we find the actual file there. If I wanted to open, let's say one of these coin pictures, I would have to change my path here. I would have to say coins/coins1.jpg. So this would load in one of those coins pictures, and I can go multiple levels down. There's a lot more we can do with paths, but I'm not going to talk about those right now. I'm just going to put this back the way it was. Okay. So we can't, if we have a string, that's just a string. It's just a path, but it's also just a string from Python's perspective. We have to actually use it, pass it to a function that knows what to do with it in order to get the data from the file. And that's what the function called imread does. Because this is a module, I said import cv2. In order to access imread, we say cv2.imread. And then we pass it a string which tells it which image file we want to read. Imread stands for image read, right? That should make some sense. So it's going to go and find that file, read the data in, and notice that we're taking that function and we're assigning its result to a variable. Imread returns a result, which is an image. And I'm saving that into a variable name called cityImage. I'm then calling two additional OpenCV functions, imshow and waitKey. And these are the most basic ones that you need to know right away. Imshow, image show. It's going to create a window labeled by the string that you put first. And notice I didn't type this win name. I can't click on it because it's not really there. What I actually typed, I'll just get rid of this line and retype it so you can see. I typed city, comma, city image. And PyCharm is just labeling that word city with the name of the variable from the definition of imshow. But you don't have to really know that. You'll just see it happening. So city is going to be the label that our window has as its main title. And then the image that we want to display is the city image. This sets up all the data to be displayed. But if you just call imshow, you won't actually see the data. WaitKey always has to be paired. These two go together. You call imshow and then you call waitKey. Or you can possibly call multiple imshows and then call waitKey. But at some point, you have to call waitKey in order to see the actual window pop up. The way we're going to use waitKey right now, it just stops your program and waits for you to type a key while you're looking at the image. And when you do, then the program will move on. All right, so this is an example. I'm going to run it first. And look at that. It has popped up a window showing the Chicago building and labeled with city, and nothing else is happening. The program is just sitting here and waiting. So if I hit a key, any key on the keyboard, then it moves on. I could do this again. I could read in a different image. So I could say image2 equals cv2.imread sample images. What's a nice image? Let's read in landscape. Landscape is too big. That's why we have a version of it called landscape, much smaller. Okay, so I'm going to read it in cv2 imshow landscape cv2 to wait key. Notice I'm using the file name completion, so it'll pop up wait key. If that's the top option, I hit tab, it'll fill it in for me. It's just a way of shortening what happens. All right, so we'll run this program again. We see the city. It's waiting for me to press a key. When I press a key, it's going to go on and continue the script. So the next thing it should do is read in the landscape image. Oh my, look at how big that is. So showing the landscape image, if I hit another key, it moves on from there. So imread, imshow, waitKey, those are the basics you need to actually read in and display images. And you're going to play around with those more when we get into activities. All right, so that covers these middle points. I want to talk a little bit about how images are represented. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of this second one. We only really need one image. And what I want to do is take a look at what it actually is. So I am going to print type city image first. what kind of data is this image thing anyway? Run the program again so it'll do it. And here's where it printed down below, class NumPy ND array. So this tells us it's using a NumPy array to represent an image, and the type of array is ND array. That stands for n-dimensional array. So it's a multi-dimensional array of data. Once I know that it's a NumPy array, there are certain things I know I can do with it. Among others, I can print it. I could have printed it before. And I'm also, before that, there are two useful constants or useful variables that belong to NumPy arrays. One is called shape, and one is called dtype. So what do those do? Shape will show you the dimensions of the array. It's an n-dimensional array. How many dimensions does it have, and how big are they? So this is going to show us, say, the width and height of the image, and we'll get into the image representations a bit more in depth later, but we'll just take a look at what that looks like. And cityimage.dtype, this gives you the kind of data that is stored in the city image array. So we'll run this again. And again, here we're not paying so much attention to the displaying of the image. All right, so here we have the shape of our image, which is 640, 427, and 3. That's the shape of the array. If you went and looked at that image, let's go back here and find it. Notice that the size of the image, as it's shown here, is 427 by 640, and there's 24-bit color. The 640 and 427 are flipped slightly just because of the way that ordering the two dimensions happens. But the 3 is actually how we're representing color, and we'll get more into that again in a different place. The other thing to notice is this right here, uint8. So one of the features of a NumPy array is that all the data in the array has one type. So all the data in the image is uint8 data, and that's an abbreviation. Let me go back to the code so I can write this out. uint8 equals unsigned integer 8 bits long. It's an abbreviation for unsigned integer 8 bits long. This is a standard size that is used for colors. And if you've ever done anything with HTML, you will also have been working with a particular representation for color that uses this size of data. So this is just the type of data that's in the array. And here we've printed out the array. I'm actually going to pull this up higher, even covering the code a little. So this is part of the array. It's showing us the first 3 values in the first row, and then the last 3 values in the first row. This is the second row. This is the third row, and then it skips down and it shows us the bottom ones as well. So an array, an image in this case, is just a big collection of these integer values. Positive integers, they start with 0 and they go up to a maximum of 255. And that is what the uint8 actually tells us. We'll talk more about that later. So we're using this NumPy array to represent an image, and we can display the image, and that's all great. What else can we do? One last thing, and then we're going to stop. The one last thing is we're going to make our own image-like shape. So what I'm going to do is say blank im equals, and I need another import statement here. np.zeros, and I'm going to pass it 2 things. I'm going to pass it. So this basically, this function makes an n-dimensional array. So this first portion here is giving the dimensions for that array, the width and the height and the width. And then I'm telling it what kind of data to put in that array. And I'm telling it fill the whole thing with zeros. That's hence the name of the array or of the function. So np.zeros makes an array full of zeros. And then we'll just take a look at it and see what it looks like. All right, so here's the city. I'm still showing this. Here's blank. It's just a black box, as it were. But this is basically a blank canvas. We can then, there's some drawing tools we can use with OpenCV that we can use to draw on top of a blank background rather than on top of a photograph. Okay, this is just giving you a very brief intro to OpenCV to get you started with the first few things you can do. Try these on your own, and then we'll pick this up in class and carry it further. So I will see you very soon.